AITA for kicking my sister out of my house, for telling my husband he's so lucky to be rich. My husband and I have always considered ourselves fortunate in life, but not for the reasons many might assume. We've been together for several years now, and though we have a comfortable life, it hasn't come easily. I met my husband after he had already gone through a lot in life, more than anyone should have to at such a young age. He was only 17 when he lost both of his parents in a tragic accident that forever altered the course of his life. The circumstances surrounding their deaths were devastating, to say the least. It wasn't just that they had passed away. It was the fact that their deaths were preventable. There were others who also perished that day, and the consequences of the accident were far-reaching. My husband found himself in the middle of a lawsuit, a complex and painful legal battle that dragged on for years. But in the end, the court ruled in favor of the families of the victims, and my husband received a significant sum of money as part of the settlement. To say the money was a blessing would be a massive understatement. My husband had lost both of his parents in the blink of an eye, and no amount of money could ever replace that. His sorrow over the loss of his parents never truly faded. The wealth that came from a lawsuit wasn't something he celebrated. It wasn't like the kind of fortune you see in movies where someone revels in their newfound riches. No, for him, it was a reminder of the tragedy that had taken both of his parents from him. We met a few years after the settlement, and we hit it off almost immediately. It wasn't the money that drew me to him. Far from it. We connected on a much deeper level, with shared values and a genuine understanding of each other's pasts. We started dating, and after 4 years of getting to know each other, we got married. As a couple, we always worked hard to ensure we had a good life, and we managed to build a comfortable and stable future for ourselves. Now, we are parents to 3 beautiful children. Our life is one of stability and comfort. We're not extravagant or showy with our money, but we're fortunate enough that we don't have to worry about the things most people do. We've been able to invest wisely and plan for our children's futures. But despite the wealth, we live very much like most families do. We work hard, we enjoy simple pleasures, and we treasure the time we have together. My family, my parents and my sister, know a bit about my husband's past. They know he lost both of his parents at a young age, and they know the lawsuit followed after the tragedy. They're aware that he received money as part of the settlement, but they don't know the exact details of how much money he has. They've always been respectful of the fact that, while my husband is well off, he didn't come by his wealth in any celebratory way. His parents' deaths weren't something to be thankful for, and the money that came from it was never something to flaunt. On one particular evening, we had my family over for dinner. It was one of those casual get-togethers where everyone was chatting about their lives. My sister was telling us about some exciting things in her life, and we were all discussing future plans, dinners, and trips. She mentioned that she and her boyfriend were saving up for a weekend getaway. They had plans to move in together soon, and this trip would be a significant milestone in their relationship. It was nice hearing her talk about her future in such a positive light. At some point during the conversation, my husband chimed in, mentioning that we had visited the place they were planning to go to and that they would have a great time. It wasn't a fancy or luxurious place by any means, just a nice spot that we enjoyed visiting. My sister smiled and agreed, but then made an offhand comment that completely took me by surprise. She said, "Well, I won't have the kind of money to go there like you guys do." I knew my husband didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, so he simply responded, "We didn't do anything fancy there, so I'm sure you'll have a great time." But then things took an unexpected turn. My sister, without any hint of hesitation, said, "Well, the least you could do is offer us the money for the weekend. You could afford it." I was stunned. I wasn't sure if she was joking or if she truly felt entitled to ask my husband for money, but I immediately shut that down. I told her that she wasn't entitled to our money, especially not for something like a weekend trip. But my sister didn't stop there. She doubled down, saying, "Well, if he really wanted to, he could send us for a month, not just a weekend. He has the money." At that point, I could feel the tension in the room rising. My husband tried to stay calm, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. He responded that it wasn't as simple as just giving money away. We weren't in the business of handing out funds to anyone for things like weekend trips. And then, my sister said something that completely shocked me. "He's so lucky to be rich. I'd give anything to have that kind of money." Those words were like a slap in the face. I could feel my blood boiling. My husband didn't get his wealth because he was lucky. He didn't get it through some stroke of fortune or good luck. He got it because he lost both of his parents. His wealth was a direct result of their tragic deaths, and the last thing I would tolerate was someone casually referring to it as if it were just some blessing he had received without a second thought. The money might have come from a lawsuit, but it came at an immense cost, one that my husband would trade in a heartbeat to have his parents back. I was so angry that I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told my sister, in no uncertain terms, that she needed to leave. I wasn't going to sit there and let her disrespect my husband like that. She could have said something insensitive without realizing it, but her words were cruel, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I asked her to leave, and I made sure she knew she wasn't welcome in our house until she could offer a genuine apology to my husband. She didn't take kindly to that, and she was angry as she left. Over the following days, she called me repeatedly, telling me I had overreacted and that I was being ridiculous. She said I was blowing the situation out of proportion and that I shouldn't have kicked her out like that. But I couldn't shake the feeling that what she had said was downright cruel, especially when you consider everything my husband had been through. My husband, ever the peacemaker, told me that I didn't have to stand by my decision. He said he didn't want to come between me and my sister, but I was firm in my stance. It wasn't about him. It was about the way my sister had disrespected him. I told him that if anyone was coming between us, it was her, and until she apologized, she wouldn't be allowed back into our home. I understand that my husband doesn't want conflict, but I also understand that there are times when you have to stand up for the people you love. My husband's wealth wasn't a result of good fortune. It was a reminder of the painful price he paid. And my sister's comment, though perhaps made in a moment of frustration, was thoughtless and insensitive. It hurt me deeply, and I wasn't going to let it slide. Now, my sister hasn't apologized, and she continues to insist that I was too harsh. But I stand by my decision. I don't think I'm in the wrong, and I'm not going to let anyone make my husband feel less than what he is. A man who's been through more than most people can imagine. So, AITA for kicking my sister out? Or was my reaction justified?